Hey there, welcome back. So, let's see. The last video ended abruptly with, it ended abruptly when we were up to question 65, so that's where we'll begin. This video won't make much sense unless you take a look at where the last video left off, alright? So here we have a question. I'll tell you what it looks like in the textbook. Take a look. Where are we? Right there. See it? It's the one that says 65. You can write down the choices, and here we have it. You pretty much have a clock. I drew a clock, and it's asking you what the smaller angle is. So there's this big angle outside here, and then there's this small angle inside here, right? And they're asking you what the angle would be if it was when it's 10 o'clock. So here it's pointing at 10. You see, and I said what you should do is you should start from what you know and then move towards what you don't know, sort of using what you already know. So I said pretend it's pointing at 9, and if it were 9 o'clock, you would have a 90-degree angle. And then I said, how many times in terms of integers are there between, here and by the time the angle closes? And it's 9 o'clock, and then the next integer would be 10 o'clock, and then 11 o'clock, and then 12. And so look, if it were 9 o'clock, we'd have a 90-degree angle, right? And then by the time it reaches 10, we'd have this angle. It'd be a smaller angle, and then by the time it reaches 11, it'd be yet another angle, smaller still. And so what I said, look, is just draw these arrows. Draw an arrow pointing towards 10, and then one pointing towards 11. And what we're left with is 3 angles cut out of that 90-degree angle that we started with. Alright, so each one's obviously worth what? If we have a 90-degree angle, again, if it were 9 o'clock, we would have a 90-degree angle. But it's not 9 o'clock, the question's about 10 o'clock. And so what do? Well, we find out how much each one's worth. We get this 90-degree angle, we divide it by 3, and we get 30, right? If you want to just do it, there you have it, right? Good, so each one's 30. Each one of these is 30. This is 30, this is 30, and this is 30. Alright, so I think you can see it coming now. It's kind of simple, you just go like that. So, how big's the angle if it's 10 o'clock? It's 30 plus 30, right? It's 30 plus 30. That's a 60-degree angle. And you can do this, obviously if it's 6 o'clock, for instance, what would you have? You would have a straight line. And that angle would be what? It'd be 180, right? So work with what you know. You know what a 180-degree angle looks like, so that's familiar. You know what a 90-degree angle looks like. It could be like this, or it could be like that. So work with what you're familiar with, and then using that, get to what you would like to find out, alright? So this is question 65, and the answer is D, because D is the one that says 60 degrees. Alright, you got it? Feel free to pause it at any time. Alright, moving on. It's not cleaning up very nicely, but it's good enough. Here's question 72. So here, take a look and pause it again when you see it clearly. That's 72 right there. Perfect. Okay. So it says let n be a number from, here I would write down from, right? Very important. From what? From -3 to 4. And they were kind enough to say inclusive. Sometimes they won't even say inclusive. Whenever you hear from, it means you include the number you start with and the number you end with, alright? It's not the same as saying in between, alright? When someone says from, they mean include the one you begin with and include the number mentioned that it ends with, alright? So, alright, good. It says let n be an integer from that to that, alright? So, let n be from -3 to 4 inclusive. That's what we're doing, okay? So, what is the range of values of n squared? Alright, so we do n. What is the range of values for n squared? That's what they're asking us. Remember, you should have already written down in your own sheet of loose leaf, one that I will look at, this question, alright? That's why I put the book in front of the camera. You're supposed to pause the video and write down the question, okay? So let's do it and let's see what it looks like. So we're supposed to go like this. our number line. Here's -3, here's -2, here's -1, here's 0, here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, and there's 4, and that's all the numbers we'll ever need, right? And you can't see that, so let me shift it over just a bit. There you go, that's good enough, I hope. And what does each one look like? So we'll get each one in square, and remember, please, to preserve your parentheses. So let's go to this one. It looks like this. Let's try to be quick. It looks like that. And what does that give us? This gives us, believe it or not, it gives us +9. This is why you preserve your parentheses, okay? Because if you weren't to preserve your parentheses, if instead you went like this, right, and then you raised it to the second power, because see, it says raised to the second power, you have to get each one of these numbers and raise each one of them to the second power, because each one of these numbers is actually n. N is all of those numbers, basically, alright? And you have to get every single one of those numbers, every single one of these integers, and raise them all to this, because that's what the question tells you to do, alright? But if you were to raise them to the second power without preserving the parentheses, and instead you were to do this, you would basically be applying 2 to that, well, the second power to that, and that would give you 9, and then you'd be tacking that on later, and you'd get that answer, and that would be the wrong answer. So they're counting on you making that sort of a mistake. Don't make it. Alright, so let's erase this. Again, preserve your parentheses to avoid that mistake. Because if you preserve your parentheses, they're saying, what's this? Wholly, like, completely different situation, right? Because you got what's negative times negative? Positive. What's 3 times 3? 9, and that's the answer, see? +9. It would be completely different again if you didn't preserve your parentheses. So, preserve your parentheses, alright? If you'd like, you can even write here. You might find that helpful. I kind of didn't, alright? So, next one is this one. -2 to the second gives us what? 2 to the second is 4. It's positive again. This one, -1 to the second gives us 1. Then what does this one give us? 0 to the second. This one doesn't really matter. It gives us 0. Right? Very important, though. This question would be extremely different if 0 weren't in it, and you'll see why in a moment. Alright? So what does that give us? 1 to the second gives us what? 1, right? 2 to the second power gives us what? Gives us 4 again. Welcome back, 4. And then here 3 to the second power gives us 9. And then 4, because it's inclusive, you have to include 4. What does that give us? It gives us, let's see, 4 to the second power gives us 16. Nice, so we got to do something about this. Just give me a moment while I shift this over, and let's hope some catastrophe doesn't happen. Perfect, nice. So take a good look. Here's our numbers, and let's move on. Now it's what's it saying? It's saying, take a look at the question again. You have it written down yourself. What is the range of values? Alright, so obviously range means the number, the difference between the smallest number and the largest number, right? So what's the, look, here's our result. Which is the smallest of these? As you notice, though we started with negatives, in the final values, there's no negative, they're all positive, alright? So that's why they're trying to like fool you. The smallest number is this one, alright? So we start from 0, and what's the biggest number? 16. Good. So what does that tell us? It tells us that. Now, remember they wrote inclusive. That's so important. You can make a mistake very easily here. So you have to go like this. This kind of means inclusive. N could be anything from 0 to what? To 16. Because this is the smallest, right? This is the, well, the smallest. And then this here is the, right, the largest. Alright, so then you write 16 here. And, well, it's N, I'm sorry. Alright, so you got it? That's what it looks like. And that would be K, alright? That's choice K. Yes, indeed it is. Alright, looks good, right? So again, here they said what they wanted you to do is let n be a number from -3 to 4 inclusive. You have to remember to include 3 and 4 in this, and we did. We started with -3 and we ended as 4 as they told us. -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Why? This runs the number line from where they tell us to begin to where they tell us to end, and we remember to include each of these. Very good, we did that. Here's our number line. And then every single one of these guys is a candidate, And so every single one of them we put in parentheses because we must preserve their true value. -3 is -3, alright? And -3 must be multiplied by -3. That's what must happen. And a negative times a negative is a positive. Realize the n is positive. Alright, same here. We want to preserve for all these negative numbers and their negativity, alright? So here we have them. That's the result. 0 turns out to be in the end the actual smallest number. These at a glance look like the smaller numbers, but really when we do the multiplication it's 0 that's the smallest. Alright, so here we have 0 and the largest is 16. And so that's the range. N squared, because we did square all the numbers, n squared is larger or equal to 0 but smaller or equal to 16. Perfect. Got it. Alright, so hopefully you wrote it down. Go over this as many times as you want. You can make up questions very easily that are just like this one, and I want to do one more question and pause this, otherwise it takes forever to upload these videos. Alright, so what's the next question look like? It's question number... Let's see if we wrote it down. Well, let's skip that one. Let's see, when my notes aren't very neat. I know, not the greatest example on earth, right? Yes, alright. Do we have enough time to do this one? I like this question, and I'm going to devote an entire video to it, alright? So, see you soon. We're going to start with question 78. That's that one about small boxes and big boxes, alright? And seeing how we can fill these boxes up and make the most boxes out of them, alright? So, that's the one we'll start with next. Until next time.